Jesus said to the 12 disciples, "A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher, and the slave like the master. If they have been called the master of the house, Beelzebul, how much more will they belie those in his household? So have no fear of them, for nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell in the light, and what you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father, and even the hairs on your head are all counted. So do not be afraid, you are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledges me before others, I also will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I will also deny before my Father in heaven. Do not think I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who live their life for my sake will find it."
Hear what the Spirit is saying to God's people.
Thanks be to God. Some of you know that one of my pastimes and one of the ways in which I prepare various things regarding our services and stay up to date on some things is I often surf social media, and that one of the places that I tend to go is YouTube. YouTube hosts our services each week for Wednesday and Sunday. And they've been a part of that for a long time. So I will often go and review various things that are on YouTube. I'll watch other people's services. I will try to stay updated on the various guidelines that they establish. And quite frankly, I also find myself attracted by different videos. I've talked with you on occasion about the role of music in hearing music that I haven't heard for a long time on YouTube. And there are times, too, that I hear music that is just very special to me that I've never heard before. I encounter things that are new. And it's really quite exciting, and they get built into my life in different ways. Sometimes it'll take me to a new artist, and I will begin to listen to the various things that they do. And that has been wonderful. Every now and then I find something new, and I did that this week. I don't know, they've probably been doing it for a while, or maybe someone in their boredom of being locked in decided to try to do some of this. But as I was going through and watching some specific videos that I do to put things together, one popped up on my list. And I thought, this is interesting. It was a collection of commercials from television in 1961. I couldn't resist it. So I started to watch it. And I began to have these memories of watching television in 1961, and I began to hear these jingles that went along with the commercials. That was not so good necessarily, but I began to watch those, and then I turned them off. I just went as far as I could, and lo and behold, there popped up a list of all of the new shows that were going to be shown in the fall of 1961 on one of the networks. Now, I have to tell you, that was beyond resistance. There was no way in the world I could not watch that. And so I did. And as I started out, I had this image of the television shows of 1961, and I began to try to remember what was it that I watched then. And so on this one network, one show, the first show that popped up, I went, I don't remember that. And then there came one that, I remembered so well. And then there was another one that I didn't know, and then there was one that I knew of, but I didn't watch it because it was after my bedtime. I did have a bedtime in 1961. Probably not much earlier than the one I have now. So I watched some of these shows, and I began to think about the reality of how that was a part of my life. And I remembered how that at recess in school we would often play out these television shows as part of what we did during that time. And I began to think about the relationships that I had with people. I became acutely aware of how this is part of my history, an important part of my history. Especially those things that I could remember, those things that touched memories within me, that moved me and stirred me in some way. They were so special. And I began to think about how in my own life history is so important, and how it helps define who I was and who I am. How was Friday for you? How was Friday for you? It's known as Juneteenth. Did you know that on Friday? Raise your hand if you did. I see some. Some of you need to put your hand down. You're just trying to impress us. Okay. I had my hand up. How many of you have ever done anything to celebrate Juneteenth? I haven't. Have you? I found myself struck by just how that seemed to go across the board, how so many people were posting things about Juneteenth. I'd never seen that happen in the way in which it did. And I began to realize that this was something quite strange. It was exciting to me, but it was also something very strange for me. For you see, there was nothing in those television shows from 1961 about Juneteenth. There was nothing in those television shows about celebrating the end of slavery in that way. I've become aware in the last few weeks through various means and ways, sometimes on YouTube, sometimes social media, sometimes other places, I've become aware of these aspects of history that are very real and are true and accurate. And I had no real sense of them. Is that true for you too? Is that true for you too? What I've come to see is that I have constructed my own sense of what history is and how history should always be. I am formed in many ways. My history is formed by those things that I did during my life at various times. But they're also formed by my interpretation of them. And they're also formed by the things that I read and was taught. And those books that I read during those times, those teachers who came together to teach me often taught me facts, but these are facts that they didn't teach me. But it doesn't make it any less true. And it doesn't make it any less real. We seem to live in a time now, especially maybe more so than before. I'll let you be the judge of this. When if something doesn't fit into our sense of history, our interpretation of history, if it doesn't fit into our own belief system, then we just negate it. We say it isn't true. It is not real. That's just some other group. Don't worry about them. We deny it. We deny the reality of what this means in other people's lives. We deny the words that other people speak. We deny history as it is. And one of the ways in which we do that is we just simply say it doesn't exist. Or we say that someone is rewriting history. Oh, I think sometimes that happens. I think sometimes people try to rewrite history, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think we're trying to come to understand history in a broader way and to come to understand what is true and factual that is behind it. We in the church should know better than that. To try to deny these kinds of realities, we should know better than that. We have a horrible history of hiding things. We have a horrible history of keeping secrets. I don't mean keeping confidentiality. I mean keeping secrets that are harmful and hide the reality of what we have done. And we won't come to terms with them. But when we start beginning to peel off that veil of secrecy and to look beyond it and to do something about it, then all of a sudden people are shocked. Oh my goodness, we didn't know that was happening. Or oh my goodness, those are all lies being perpetuated by someone else. In the church, we should know better. We are called to a different place, perhaps a higher standard of what it means to live together with other people. And denial of their reality and of the truth is not part of that. Jesus said through Matthew that the time will come when the gospel, the presentation of this gospel, will take away those things that are hidden, and it'll make them known, and we will be able to see what the truth really is. It is our job in the church to take away the veil of secrecy, to remove the practice of denial, and to open up our lives to God in new ways. If we don't, we're doomed. Not doomed because God's going to do something to us, doomed because anybody else is going to do something to us. We doom ourselves by taking ourselves out of community and out of our closeness with God. When we as the church open ourselves up and we say to God, here we are, and we say to the world, here we are, we stand there with others and we claim the reality of our lives, but we claim even something more important. We claim the reality of God's grace in our lives. And when we do that, we open ourselves to the wonderful transformation of God's grace and what it means for us as individuals and as the people of God. My memories, they're wonderful, but they're not very reliable. Every day they get a little less reliable. Sometimes we form them into things that we need them to be that don't help us and don't help others. The good news is that God's presence in our lives can transform us, make us more open to others, and in so doing, help us to be more open to God, who loves us so much and whose love transforms us and makes us new, regardless of our history. Amen.